Hi there, my name's Claire, and welcome to Streamily's Fan Service Podcast. This is the podcast where we invite some guests to talk about what makes them a fan. And today I'm joined by two very talented actors. It's the wonderful Trevor White and Joseph May. Hi, guys.
Hello.
Hiya. Thank you for having
Yeah,
me.
it's
Thanks for
lovely
having me.
to have you. I'm so excited to have you on fan service. Now, let's just get straight into it and talk about what makes you a fan, something that you were a fan of growing up or something now. Let's start with Joseph.
Well, being a fan, there's so many things I was a fan of as a kid, like from like Looney Tunes cartoons, which I loved, the Flintstones. I loved my cartoons desperately. And my memory is getting a little soft as I age. So I have to kind of reach up a little bit, a whole older in age. And I think the things that probably stand out most for me, had the most impact that I was a massive fan of and couldn't get enough of, and probably still can't sometimes, which is quite sad, is Stand By Me, which I loved desperately, and the Beastie Boys, which I also know Trevor loves. Um, um, but just like I think it's for Stand By Me was that one of those movies where I sat there with my friends and just like all of us just like gripped to our seats and the impact it had on us about friendships and everybody would practice like you do the skin thing on each other, give me skin, and after seeing that movie, and the actors in it were tremendous and the storytelling was tremendous. I loved every second of it. Kept you on your edge of your seat, and you can still watch it and not get tired of it. And as for the Beastie Boys, once that hit, that License to Ill hit, and I was in school like 12 or 13, I think, and then just from that point on, I just loved it because they were just brilliant. And then their next after that album, then Paul's Boutique came out and like I think surprised everybody, and was one of the best things I still listen to this day. Still the album right there, which I can pop on. It doesn't age. It's 35 years old, which is mad. Anyways,
Oh my God,
I'm
don't
excited.
don't say the age of things that we liked
Oh, sorry, but
because
we're old.
that panics me. Paul's Boutique is a great album. I love the Beastie Boys.
Mm.
What about you, Trevor? What were you a fan of?
Well, this will definitely age me, but I mean, I was an actual young kid when Star Wars came out, and I mean, now that I look at it, probably too young, like for Darth Vader and all the scary bits. I mean, my kid who's 6 now doesn't find Darth Vader scary at all, and also didn't find the Dementors scary in the Harry Potter play. But anyway, she's obviously got a stronger constitution than me. But I was obsessed, particularly with Luke Skywalker. My cousin and I, he used to live outside Calgary. We even made like a Super 8 movie. I have no idea where that's
Oh my
gone.
God, it'd be amazing to see.
Yeah, he was quite technically adept, so he was doing like kind of versions of green screen stuff. He had like he'd made like a TIE fighter thing, like looking out of the Millennium Falcon and was moving things around. And we even tried to do like the little wrap of the sock thing that Luke Skywalker had in his little white
Oh,
outfit. And I don't even, like that. They look like bandages, I guess. Uh yeah, I mean, I'm completely obsessed with that world. So much so that when the middle three movies came out, which of course were the prequels, many years later, I was so angry at how, am I allowed to swear on this? Imagine I'm swearing if I'm not,
Yes.
at how not good they were. I stood up and booed at the screen at the end because I was infuriated. Like I felt like my
really?
childhood, those three original movies, particularly probably the first two, if I'm being honest, looking back at it now, but I
Mm.
didn't care. I was young. Ewoks were great back then. Uh, I loved them so much, and it was like it felt like they were shitting on my childhood. You're like, you guys, what have you done? These are embarrassing, terrible films. That's just my personal opinion, of course. But Beastie Boys, yeah, same as Joe. Like when License to Ill came out, and I know a lot of the lyrics don't date particularly well, but I
No.
mean, I actually sang "Fight for Your Right" at my wedding. I'd forgotten.
Did you?
Yeah, we had a live band, friends of mine, and the bass player in the band and I had a conversation, and I was like, yeah, yeah. And then, of course, being a wedding and my own wedding, I completely forgot about, thankfully, because there was enough other stuff to be stressed about. And then he was like, Trevor, come on up. Let's fight for your. I was like, oh, right, that's happening. And it was one of the highlights of my life. I got to crowd surf at the end, and even
No
my
way.
80-something-year-old dad was there jumping up and down. I'm sure he had no idea what was going on. I'm sure he'd also had a few drinks at that point, as had we all. But it was, yeah. I got to meet Mike D about 7 or 8 years ago when they were touring the book and did like a live show that
Oh,
Spike,
did you go to that? Yeah, I would
yeah,
love
over
to
at
see that.
Acme. And that was, I mean, yeah, they were and still do mean so much to me. They just were incredible innovators and just wrote really, really fun music. So I'm with Joe on that one all the way. And you, it sounds like
Just
we're all.
Yeah. Just with this, like each album that would come out. Sorry, I'm going now.
Hmm.
But I mean, from Lace to Ill to that, and then to Check Your Head, I was like every time you get Check Your Head, you put that on for the first time, like because you hadn't heard anything back in the day, like so you'd grab the CD, it'd first come out, and you'd throw it on, and it was just like, what? This is like nothing like that was before. Like it was so revolutionary with every album they did, and Sabotage. You go, oh my god, this is an amazing song, like just incredible.
Yeah. And then they started playing their instruments, and I saw them live, I think 3 times.
Oh,
Once with Sonic Youth and L7, once was at a
with Sonic
Lollapalooza.
Youth.
Really?
Oh, yeah, I love Sonic Youth.
Yeah. And they played, they were headlining with Smashing Pumpkins in a Lollapalooza tour as well. That lineup was unbelievable.
Where was that?
I was obsessed with the Pixies as well, and Kim Deal. That
The
was
Breeders. They would just play
Cloverdale, outside of
in
Vancouver.
Cloverdale.
Yeah.
Wow.
That was it's like 30 years ago, more or less. I
Oh
would
my
say.
God, that's like everything you've just mentioned is peak 90s.
Yeah.
Really was. And I was in a different headspace that day, in a good one. It was, let's just say that.
A good headspace.
Good headspace. I don't condone the use of this nor that, but that particular day, it was a fun day.
You're young and having a good time.
Sure. I was led astray. Exactly.
You were led astray. I was thinking about, when you're talking about music, we think about films and TV, and I think back to those times as well. Bands that you loved, and then they release these albums or movies that come out that you're super excited about. And there's something different about the excitement you have back then than perhaps now. Why do you think that is? Or do you still have the same sort of excitement for certain things? Joseph, what do you think?
No, I don't think I get the same sort of excitement. I think probably some of it's to just do with like marketing and everything that kind of comes before now. I mean, that's just the way we're built, is to kind of have these kind of endless kind of months and months of build up towards something being released. So I think it's kind of more the surprise of something being released. Like you kind of hear about it. There wasn't much advertising for it. And then it would come out, or a movie, you'd see the trailers in the cinema. Like you'd have to go to the movies to see a trailer for things. So yeah, it was, I think, so there's more of an element of surprise, and it feels that's kind of taken away from you a little bit more now, I'd say. I still get excited about things to go see, but yeah, I get excited about TV shows. I mean, last night I was looking up when the hell is Pachinko Series 2 coming out? Because like it's been driving me mad, and late August, if you want to know. Yeah, but so those kind of things. Yeah, no, so I do think it has been impacted your level of surprise these days. I don't know if you guys agree or not, but.
Yeah, I think so. I was watching the second trailer for Alien Romulus, and it's a new Alien film coming out shortly. And I thought, I don't know if I want to see any more trailers. Do you know what I mean? It's like
we need 2 trailers, yeah.
No, not really. Like, I mean, back in the day, I remember going to see Fight Club. I was 16 or 17, and my cousin just went, "Let's go see Fight Club." I had no idea what it was, and I'd never read the book. And then so when I went, I was like so pleasantly surprised, and it became one of my favorite films. And then the author became Chuck Palahniuk became one of my favorite authors. So I kind of like, you're right, the element of surprise. What about you, Trevor? Do you think it's age, or is it the marketing element of? I feel somewhat it's probably age for me sometimes.
Probably between the two, yeah.
Yeah,
I think but I think Joe's hit on a really good point. Like even talk shows, everything back then, people would just go on a talk show because they were a personality, and they were in town, and Muhammad Ali would be in London, and he'd go on Parkinson or whatever. And it was less geared towards the movie is coming out, and therefore we all have to do this thing. But it certainly, as concerns like the individual, whether it's a play or a movie or an album or whatever, it's just, I love the element of surprise. I try not to watch trailers of things. It's funny you mentioned Fight Club. I was just talking to friends last week, like what's the name of movie that everyone's seen that you haven't, and that's my movie. I mean, at least one of them that everyone's like, you haven't seen Fight Club? I'm like, I haven't. It's a true story. And so I need to see Fight Club. I'm going to see Fight Club. It will happen, and I'm excited. I mean, I know a little bit about it. I've seen pictures, and it sounds like it's going to be fun. But I'm excited about seeing it. But yeah, you can't quite be excited probably in the same way as you were with when you were a kid. Yeah, going to see Empire Strikes Back or even Raiders of the Lost Ark, like, it was just like,
Oh yeah,
wow,
yeah.
absolutely, and yeah, I can see my kids doing it now. Certainly my oldest, who's, my youngest is 2, so he just is into trucks and trains and
Of
uh
course.
anything that makes a loud noise. But my oldest, she'll get so into like a Pokemon thing, or like she got into Star Wars for a while, or the Harry Potter or whatever, and it just, they move on quickly, but that intensity of the whole world becomes that thing for
Yeah, my daughter was like that too.
yeah, it's really it's
Yeah,
like it's lovely to watch. Like someone just like their imagination is,
consumed by it.
yeah. Well, it's really cool. I love to witness that.
So,
It's great. I just think.
sorry, go
No,
on,
go ahead.
Joseph.
No, no, I was just saying, I just had a memory of like going to watch Ferris Bueller's at Chinook Center, and like the queue outside, and everybody like knew a bit about it, but like the excitement was so palpable. Just like all these like teenage kids waiting to kind of go see, and then it just lived up to your expectations, and that was the great thing about it. Something that you were so desperate to see, which you didn't know a huge amount about, but you'd seen little bits of the trailers, but then going into that and then coming out just absolutely elated. But
So
yeah, but
what excites you now then? Like, because I was thinking about this recently. I love horror. So actually what's exciting me now about filmmaking is that horror seems to be one of the most flexible, interesting genres to me right now as a horror fan, because you've got all sorts of horror. You can go sci-fi, psychological, you can go drama, old school, any time period. And that's why I am loving horror at the moment. And that's exciting me. What about you guys? At this point, what excites you and gets your sort of juices flowing?
My favorite scary film, like, I guess it's horror. It's a ghost story, really. I don't know if either of you seen it's El Orfanato. It's a Spanish film, but
Yes.
not The
no.
Orphan, which is about someone pretending to be a kid who's actually a proportional dwarf. That's an entirely different horror film, and not a good one. The Orphanage is absolutely terrifying, and actually, it in the logic of the, if you believe in ghosts and all that, like, it holds, you can buy into it, and you're like, I'm never going to take over, an old orphanage and live by the seaside in my life, because that's what happens in the story. Because it's like, oh, this is a nice big house by the water. Won't that be a great idea? If you haven't seen the film, I recommend it to anyone who likes scary movies, because I remember the first time I saw it, I had to like sink down into the seat in the cinema. Like, I was thinking that would protect me so that no one could get me from behind as well. I was like part of the furniture, and all my hairs were on end. It's so good, and my wife and I still recount moments in the film to each other from it, to kind of scare each other, because it's just the best. It's just
Love that. What about you, Joseph? What gets you excited these days? So you said you were looking up, was it season 2 of what was the show you mentioned?
Pachinko, which is an
Right.
Apple series. It's about like kind of a Korean and Japanese story. Amazing one about, I think, kind of these like, God, it's been so long now. It goes across ages, from like modern Japan through these kind of pachinko houses where they kind of like, I think the organized crime is kind of associated with this, back to the old days back in Korea, where it's all about kind of race and class and all these different things. It's just really, really beautifully done, really, really fascinating, and very well acted. And
nice.
my daughter and I love that. I get excited about, a really good TV series.
Mm.
I'm looking forward to like Severance again, season 2 of that. I really love that. That was amazing. Yeah, I get excited about movies when they're coming out. I guess still, I got excited about Inside Out 2, which is really but
Oh,
I'm
simply
excited to
because
see that
like,
with the kids. Yeah, we're bringing my
yeah,
daughter
I
in.
saw that with my kids, the first one with my kids in the cinema. And I mean, I had like, we all loved it. We all like were crying, and my son was like holding on to me, going "Bing Bong!" He was so upset about Bing Bong, and and so we went to see that the other night. And even though we're like, they're a lot older, my daughter's 19 and my son's 15 now. Like, we still came out of it. That was great. That was really good. We kind of a really good experience to share with each other. So I get excited about, sharing those kind of things with people. I think, yeah, I'd say
oh.
that's. Mm.
And was there a moment for you both when you were younger, watching movies or TV shows or even plays and things, that sparked the imagination enough to make you go, I want to be up on stage. I want to be in front of the camera. Do you remember that moment or a series of moments, Trevor?
Not exactly. Like I always loved, watching movies, TV shows, animation, whatever it was. But I didn't really ever. As a high school student, and in Canada, I think it's a bigger, like improv is a big thing there. I mean, it's big everywhere, but it really has a lot of its roots in I think Alberta, actually. Weirdly, that's not where I'm from, but we didn't really do a lot of like let's study a play. It was like let's do improv, let's do theater sports, and like it was my favorite class at school. I just absolutely loved doing that, and it didn't really feel like scary, like people going, oh my gosh, like what are you going to come up with, how's it going to be, like are you gonna be funny? It was just like everyone was doing it, and it was joyful and exciting and often really hilarious, sometimes not. But so it wasn't until like 10 years later or so, after I'd got an economics degree, which I'm glad I did not pursue anything further than that in that field of work, because it just wasn't for me. It's for other people, it wasn't for me. Then I started acting because I was like, oh, I think it's been there all along, this love of this thing. But I didn't ever imagine when I was younger that I'd be like, oh, I would be up on a screen or on a stage or any of that. I don't think yeah, it's terrible, but I was like around the time of Wall Street, like I was full Gordon Gekko. I thought I was going to have suspenders and like be in an office, a corner office, and like buying and selling stuff and just being a bit of an asshole, really, and making lots of money. That's what I thought I was going to do. So it didn't work out that way.
I'm glad you mentioned improv. I'm doing improv at the moment, and it's wonderful. I think everyone should at least take some kind of class like that once. I've said this time and time again, acting or improv or something. It's great for confidence. It's about playing, and even
Oh, it is,
acting is playing, we don't use, or sort of folks with 9 to 5 jobs and things, sadly, we don't use our imaginations half as much as what we do when we're children. And there's something very lovely and light about it. And you're right, it's not about being funny, it's just about playing, just
Yeah.
having a laugh. It's so freeing. What about you, Joseph? Was there a defining moment or series of moments that made you go, this is the thing I'm doing now. This is the
There
one.
was a series of moments for sure. Like I think I was always able to get up on stage, I guess, when I was a kid, and like Trev, like in school, I was like I had a great time improvising and getting up with my buddies and making people laugh, and I was good at mimicking people too, so I could get up and get laughs that way. And then from class clown to kind of being on stage and getting said, oh, you were good at this was something that I took on board, I think. And also I grew up with a granny who's from here in London, and she was big, loved the theater and that kind of thing, would have me kind of practicing stuff and watching two Ronnie sketches, and we'd always do those together. So, and then I loved it. And in high school, I just made movies with my buddies, like, kind of like Trevor, with we just made crappy movies to get marks so we wouldn't have to write essays. And I remember that was the kind of way we do it. And we'd always get A's. I was like, this is great. And then I came over here one summer with my mom to see family, and we went to the theater, and I saw The Caretaker with Colin Firth and Donald Pleasance. And I'd never seen anything like that on stage, because I'd just been growing up in Calgary. I'd seen like Les Mis on tour or something like that. I mean, it was, Christmas Carol. That was basically it. So to see something like that and the acting like that and writing, and to hear writing like that, was just, it blew my mind. And I was like, I want to come here. So I decided then, I think, to come over and go for drama school. And I got in, thankfully, luckily.
And your list of credits, both of you, is, front the camera and behind, is incredible. But I'm going to talk about Lego City Undercover, because it's such a wonderful thing. People that have experienced Lego City Undercover have loved it, but it wasn't one of those titles that blew up and became one of the biggest titles ever, but it got a lot of accolades. It's very critically acclaimed and fans loved it. What was your experience like working on that game? Start with Trevor.
It's probably still the most fun I've ever had on a game. I think for both, I can't speak for Joe, but like the writing was, it had that like Simpsons thing where it's absolutely funny for adults, but the kids wouldn't even know what joke was going on, and they just would love it as well, because the character I played, Frank Honey, is a goofball. He makes Homer look clever. Playing off of Joe's, heroic Chase McCain, and it just the writing, it's I always come back to that. Like when you've got that launch pad in any medium, stage or TV, film, animation, video games, like you feel like you can fly. And we were encouraged to improv around stuff, and it was just so much fun.
Mm.
I just loved the character. I loved the game. I loved the people I worked with on it. It was just, yeah. And as you said, it was sort of a niche thing. I think it was on the Wii U, if memory serves. I'm not a huge gamer, so people often bring me up to speed on this, but which itself, like the platform, I guess, didn't take off in the way that they probably hoped or planned. And but it has a really loyal and very ferocious kind of like audience, I think, and fan base. So that's kind of a cool thing to be a part of that. That's one of my alter egos. I probably shouldn't say that, but like I use that as like kind of like name when I don't use my name. I use Frank Honey because it just makes me laugh.
Well, you heard it here first. Now,
Yeah.
if you see Frank Honey popping up at a
I like that. I love
restaurant
that idea. Well
Yeah.
done, Trev.
or a
Not
hotel,
that I really need to do that
Exactly.
ever,
Yeah.
I'm ready
Frank
for
Honey,
it.
dinner for two.
Yeah.
what about you, Joseph? Was that your experience in the game? Did you get to improv as
Oh,
well?
same as Trev. It was just we had a lot of just enormous. I think the writer Graham Goring, I think was, wasn't it? I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right.
And I think it was all new to him. He was kind of like, I think he was like a comedy writer and brought on board to kind of write this. And if I think I got my facts right there, but he was a lovely, lovely guy, hilarious, and would throw jokes at you, bounce jokes off of him. The directors were just fantastic and kind of would give you leeway to kind of play around. And then you were just listening to geniuses like in your headphones because you're never in the booth with each other, which is really quite sad because I think a lot of games would actually probably improve with some of the kind of dynamics and the way the performances are if Trevor and I could actually be in a booth like together bouncing off each other. I think would sometimes help things, but still was great. It was still amazing. But you had like people like Peter Serafinovich and More Than Freeman, the guy who did that one, coming in doing voices, and just amazing actors popping up to do great voices, and just so many random little things which would take you off on these little detours, which were just hilarious to do, and just it was an absolute joy to do. Like, and still I remember it with such fondness. Yeah, to this day.
a lot of my friends who are actors specifically who do a lot of voice work, they often say, yeah, you're alone in the booth. You're not always with the full cast. That's very, very rare. How do you guys keep that energy up and that sort of bouncy sort of energy? Because you sometimes need that for some scenes and some characters. What are your sort of tips and tricks, I guess, for yourself, Trevor?
It helps again when you love what you're doing. I mean, I always love it, but I mean, I love this especially. I think that the bigger challenges are when you're doing like a war game where you're just in there kind of doing various levels of yelling and screaming for a couple hours at a stretch or sometimes more. Die this way. You're now being stabbed. You're being stabbed for 3 seconds, for 5 seconds in the back. Now you're being electrocuted. Now it's a grenade. You just do it. I mean, if you had a camera on that, which I guess sometimes they do. I mean, you wouldn't want that to make it onto YouTube because you just would look foolish.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. It's one of those things where when something's great and you and it align in some way and you get the opportunity to do it because someone has decided that you get to do it and you're grateful for that. Then it's like I've surfed 3 times, never very well, but I imagine it's what it feels like when you're on a wave. It's like, I'm just on the wave. Like I'm on the wave for as long as I can be on the wave. This is great. And it'll crash eventually. And then we can get on another wave. It feels like you're kind of being taken for a ride and you just get to go along with it.
I have to ask before I move on to Joseph, what does stabbing in the back sound like as opposed to being stabbed in like the chest? How would you
Back is more of a like a
it's like say like that, and it's with that. So
very good. There you go. Demonstrated by Joe. Yeah.
I love that. Very good. Yes, very good. You've been Trevor White approved, Joseph.
No, thanks very much. Thank you, Trevor. Thank you.
Joe's a pro. Right.
I like that. Joseph, what about you? Like when you're in the booth all day long and you're trying to keep that energy up and you don't have anyone to bounce off of, what do you kind of do to keep yourself up?
Well, I think like Trevor, I love it. I have I make it fun for myself. I mean, and as much fun as I can do, whatever the character, whatever you're doing, I try to have engage. That's why it was like during COVID, it was actually hard when you kind of sometimes just by yourself at home rather than being at the studio, because then you have a director there, you have an engineer, and you can kind of also bounce off them. And I kind of like to try to kind of use them as props in a way to kind of keep my energy going, so and keep engaged. And so that's what I would do. And then sometimes you also like have the real benefit of getting to listen to each other with like on pre-recorded lines, so you do get to bounce off each other a little bit. But yeah, I just keep it going through the love of doing it. It's always fun, and you know, and I think people like Trevor and I are just enormously lucky that we've been able to kind of do this as a job for. I mean, I first met Trev doing when I first moved back to London in 2009. We met doing a game together called Dead Space Extraction, I think it was. And
Oh yeah.
I mean, yeah, and we had read-throughs and all these other things like that. And that was like full cast sitting down to a read-through, which I've never seen since or before.
Oh no.
But
What a
yeah.
time.
Do you
Yeah,
guys miss those
and
full cast read-throughs? Because that's fun. That's like,
enormous fun.
yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
and it gives you the kind of setting for everything, and then where you kind of figure out where to place yourself in a way.
I
yeah.
think that's the biggest change in our industry over the last few years that's been accelerated by COVID is that,
Mm.
for castings, auditions, for,
Mm.
even once you've got the part and read-throughs, they'll do Zoom read-throughs now for things. Like you won't be in the same room anymore, or much less than before, because sometimes you've got to be in the same room, and then there you are doing the job. But you often don't meet the director that's hired you, or producer or whatever, until you're actually there doing it. So you
Mm.
don't have a language, or you can't say, oh, remember in the audition when I asked this and you did that, and oh, okay, yeah, great. There's no shorthand. You're just sort of dropped in. And there's the social aspect too, when you'd be in town in London, a place called Spotlight usually, or equivalent.
Mm.
There'd be lots of rooms going on and people there for different things, and you just bump into people, and
Yeah.
it was a very I do miss that for sure, the social aspect. There's advantages to being able to do stuff wherever and whenever, but the human interaction, is something I miss for sure.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think
Good
especially
point.
for acting, there's chemistry between people, not just the
Mm.
the folks that are in front of the camera, or the actors, but it's producers and directors and crew
Mm.
and things like that, like just people involved. Um, and also reading people's body language and listening. I don't like the Zoom delay.
Yeah. Mm. Yeah.
So annoying.
Yeah.
How do you get through the? I've never asked this actually. How do you guys get through the Zoom delay when you're doing read-throughs? Because that's very discombobulating, I think.
Maybe I'm not experienced it too badly. Maybe you have, Trev, but I've not had it too bad. I've done like auditions where it's a little weird. For me, it's also the thing of where the hell am I supposed to look? That's the thing that bugs me the most. I'm like, am I looking here, there, and like where? And it's like what looks weirder, and then suddenly your face pops up. And like, oh, I'm acting to me. I don't want to be acting to me right now, and try to get rid of yourself. It's maybe that's just me being a Luddite, but I'm messing up somewhere along the line. But yeah, I think I'm not experienced bad Zoom delay, but you do a lot more of this than I do, Claire. Maybe Trev has.
But
Well,
yeah,
sometimes, yeah, you just you don't your signal is a bit crap sometimes, and you're like, oh, not now. I don't know. I did improve the. This is not my world at all, but I was like, I'm gonna get like a little whatever, like a booster situation, because there's certain rooms in the house that are better to be in, to be quiet, especially when there might be kids around, to actually do something like this. But then you'd shut the door and you'd lose the signal, and you'd be like, anyway. So trial and error, but so far it seems like we're able to talk more or less when we're supposed to. So I'm grateful for that.
that's good. And so you've got the Streamily signing coming up. Now, I wanted to ask, you guys, I'm not sure, you don't do that many conventions, I think. So you're not out there with, like, some actors do conventions every other weekend. You guys are not doing that so much. But when you do meet fans or someone does end up talking to you, how does that make you feel, and what is the interaction like? What do they usually ask you or talk about, Joseph?
They always want to know about the process. I think usually,
Yeah.
usually, like what was it like working on it? what were the people like, and did you meet so and so, and that kind of thing. And usually you kind of have to let them down by saying, "I know I never met anybody." So when you're doing a game, or rarely, but it's that kind of a thing, and they kind of I've really enjoyed the kind of interactions I've had. I've been really lucky, I think, with people. I've had wonderful emails. I've sent birthday messages to people. You know, I used to do the voice of Thomas the Tank Engine, and I'd have to do a lot of kids have a birthday songs messages for kids, and I really, yeah, it kind of made me. And then people would send me videos of them listening to it and their reactions, and that really warmed my heart, I have to say, because like, oh, actually, it does make you are bringing a smile to somebody's face, and I think if that's what you're doing, that's great.
Yeah, because I guess like when you're in a booth or in front of a camera, you're not seeing anyone's reaction. Even if it goes out live, you might read some
No.
stuff online, but yeah, it's the physical manifestation of you
Mm, mm, mm.
entertaining people, which I think is wonderful. What about you, Trevor, when you get to meet folks and speak to fans, what is that interaction like for you?
Well, last year and the year prior, I got to play Harry Potter and Harry Potter and the Cursed Child. So
Mm.
that's obviously a franchise, a world that means a great deal to a lot of people, and particularly younger people. Um, so, and I really loved the play as well. I think it's a really special uh, story and a great extension of that story into the future. Because I would meet people at first and say, you're a bit old for Harry, aren't you?" I'm like, no, 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 it's a generation in the future. Thank you very much for reminding me. Anyway, seeing kids, during the bows afterwards, or sometimes in the street afterwards, because I had, glasses and a wig and a scar, and then I would never get recognized. But you'd see them, they're all dressed up, wearing the cloaks and the ties and just buzzing with excitement. And, it was for them, like we were talking about earlier as a kid, it was a real event. I think someone said that more than half of like, I think over 500,000 people came over the course of the year, and more than half of those had
Wow,
never been to a play before, adults and kids.
really?
Yeah. So,
I guess in Toronto, yeah, yeah.
yeah, I love the idea, especially after the pandemic and people not interacting and going out and theater being completely, in the dark for a long time. Coming back and seeing something like that, just to be a part of that experience for people was a real privilege. And we did it hundreds of times, so that's a challenge. But you're always reminded that more than half of that audience has never even seen a play before, and certainly not this play. And it's their first time. It's their first special experience, and that was always a good reminder if you were feeling a bit tired or whatever that particular day. Yeah, that was the thing I remember most. The kids in that experience.
Love that. And okay, now I have to ask you what you've got coming up. So beyond the Lego City Undercover event, which you can find out all about on Streamly's website, on our socials, we'll be posting out about that. What have you guys got coming up? Let's start with Joseph. So for the rest of the year, what have you got coming up that you can tell us about that isn't
I can tell
under
you.
some kind of NDA?
Yeah, I'm doing a couple games that are on NDAs, which I can't talk about. Uh, Doing Division 2 stuff. I'll keep on doing that, which is a lot of fun. So there'll be some more DLCs for that, which is great. Um, Wuthering Waves has just come out, which I think is having a big impact around the gaming community. That people seem to be really buying into that. That's great. Then got a couple of TV shows. Something called Miss Scarlet, which I have a recurring role in, which is great. That's a masterpiece in North America. And then another show which I can't talk about. That I filmed in
There's
that I filmed in February. We're just NDA'd these days, like so you can. It's quite insane. I'm like, I'm sure it wouldn't matter that much, but like, yeah, it's a little mad that you can't say stuff. But
Thank you. What about you, Trevor? What have you got coming up? I know you've got quite a few interesting things coming up.
Yeah, the August 11th, thank you for asking, is the premiere on HBO. And I don't know if BBC is the same day. I probably should know that. But anyway, let's say August, of Industry, of the third season of Industry, that I have a nice little part in that is going to get, I can't say too much more, but it gets a little nasty and fun towards the end of the season, which I'm excited about. I've seen little bits, doing ADR
oh,
since
great.
last summer, but the whole series I'm very excited about. Kit Harington has joined, and an old friend of mine, Sarah Goldberg, who's also a Canadian actor, who's
she's a genius, Sarah Goldberg.
from Barry, who's incredible. And she's now
her dad was my ophthalmologist.
Really?
Weird connection.
Look at that.
I know.
Small world.
Small world. Oh well, Canada's a small, big country. Anyway. So that's very exciting. I'm looking forward as a fan to watching the show, because I've always loved watching the show, and I'm really happy to be a part of it. Even though I'm a nasty so-and-so in it. I also have a show. They haven't told me I can't talk about it. I don't think I'm on my IMDb, so it's fine. Anyway, it's a show called The Crow Girl. It's going to be on Paramount Plus. It's a Scandi crime novel that's been adapted for the small screen. And one of the producers is Slash from Guns N' Roses, which I didn't find out till afterwards. Yeah. And unfortunately, I never got to meet him, or not yet anyway. But and I hope he's doing the music for it. That would seem like a waste if he wasn't. But he was a fan of the book, and then was in large part, I think, responsible for getting it made into a TV show. But it's
awesome.
Yeah, I play an unapologetic pedophile, I think is a fair summation of the character. Not my first pedophile. I was on an NSPCC commercial about 20 years ago. That was a really impactful but also disturbing campaign. And I was second choice for Jeffrey Epstein in something last year as well. So it's probably good that I didn't get that, because then I would just be doing
you don't want to triumvirate. It's not like something.
No, I think wizard, pedophile, banker. I don't know, variety.
Let's mix it up, Trevor. You gotta mix it up.
I'm guessing.
I just get assholes. I'll stick with the assholes, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, you guys, thank you so much. Really looking forward to the Lego City Undercover sending on Streamily, and we will post out all the details, so you'll see all the links in the description to visit the shops and things like that. Joseph and Trevor, you've been absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much for chatting with me. Thank you.
Thanks for having us, Claire.
Thank you. Thank you. This has been Fan Service. I've been Wee Claire. That is Joseph. This is Trevor White, and we'll see you soon. Bye. Okay, cool. We're good.
So I just realized my thumb kept on. Oh, I do a thumbs up.
Your screen was this the whole time, Joe.
Oh, there you go. It's happened again.
I did see that. Yeah. I was like, did I imagine that I saw a little something?
No, it's the new FaceTime or Zoom thing. I didn't know it did it on Zoom.
I'm just going to stop recording.
Could I do that?